Finley. Finley.
Oh, he's got the hiccups.
Right, are you recording?
He's got some
I'm
hiccups.
going to leave you to it for a minute.
Yeah,
then. I'm going to say to you.
Okay. Shall I call you in a minute then?
Yeah, about 4 days.
No! Daddy's gone to quickly run and have lunch. I didn't think you were going to be in the whole video because you're going to get the yump. But maybe you are. Hello, my gorgeous boy. Hello. You're awake. Can you say hello to everybody? Hello. Guys, meet Finley. Finley, meet the guys. This feels so strange, but so lovely to finally introduce him to you. I know I have been posting over on Instagram like normal, but I very much have felt like I've neglected this channel all of last year pretty much, and I'll probably touch on that more in another video as to kind of why, because I film these birth story or labour and delivery videos for all of my children. That sounds so weird to say, all of them. And I don't want to make this one like really downhearted, because he might watch this back one day and think, oh, that's sad or something. I don't know. I just want to, I just wasn't myself last year, and there's loads of different reasons for it, and I did find pregnancy tougher the third time around. I'll touch on that more in another video when I'm talking about things, but this is going to be more just not about the pregnancy, but more the day of his birth. Well, not just the day of his birth, because he was actually born at 12:32 in the night, so that would be a very short video and not the full story. So I will start the morning before he was born, which is when it kind of all really began. But yeah, just quickly, he was born, like I said, at 12:32. He weighed £6.13, and he ended up being 10 days overdue. I always end up saying he was 10 days late, but he wasn't late, you know. You come when you're ready, don't you? Hey? When you're ready. And he's now 7 weeks old. He's going to be 8 weeks old like tomorrow night, Thursday, early hours of the morning. So that has just gone so fast. I can't believe. And then in a few days after that, he'll be for 2 months. So yeah, I just want to tell you all about what he's like now, and just I really want to go off on so many different tangents, to be honest, guys. But I'm going to try and rein myself back in, and this is just the birth video and delivery and labour and all of that kind of thing, and tell you all about that, and then at some other point we can chat about this guy. But he's so lovely. He's so amazing. He's so happy most of the time, and obviously it's not been plain sailing, and I do not have curled hair and makeup on 99% of the time. But yeah, he's incredible, and we feel so lucky to have him, and it's like he's always been here. It's weird how that happens. I'm going to go and see if your daddy will have you back, because you probably want to lay down, don't you? Instead of sitting here. Yeah? Should we go and see if daddy wants a cuddle for 5 minutes while mummy talks to these guys? Come on then. Right, he's happy and settled with his dad. First of all, I just want to say I'm really sorry this isn't in like a vlog style. The reason for that will become apparent by the end of the story. But yeah, let's just say when they say the third one comes quick, they ain't lying. So yes, I'm going to start off on the Wednesday morning, so like the day into the night he was born. Sorry if I'm a little bit rusty, guys, by the way. It's been a while since I've made a video, so I'm going to try not to ramble too much. But you know when you just have so many different things you want to say, and I'm going to try and get them out in the right order. So I might also try and insert some pictures or anything that I do have, if I have anything that I think will like be relevant to the story. On the Wednesday morning I had a midwife appointment, which was my sort of like 41-week one, the one where they're like, you walk in and they're like, oh, you're still pregnant then? And I was like, yeah, still pregnant, which to be honest I was expecting, because my first was 8 days late, second was 10 days late. I was on day 9, and this time I wasn't really too down or I got a bit depressed about it being so late with my other two. But I was expecting it this time, and we were also renovating the upstairs of our house, and we really only got done the day before that, on the Tuesday. Like, if he'd have been born on like his due date or before, we didn't have carpets, it wasn't done. So it was really, really nice to have it done just before he was born. So I was kind of more worried about getting that done than him being overdue. So we went to the midwife. She did all her normal checks, blood pressure, urine sample, listened for the heartbeat and everything like that. And she also rang and booked my induction, which would have been on the Saturday. So this was a Wednesday, it was booked for the Saturday, which I think was the 12 days overdue. I think that's, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but that's what they do here. And then she asked if I wanted the stretch and sweep. And I will just say at this point, I'm assuming you realise this might have some TMI subjects in this video if you clicked on it to watch. But just in case, yeah, there's TMI stuff. So yeah, she asked me if I wanted the stretch and sweep, which if you know, you know. I had it with Elliot. I wasn't offered it with Archie, I don't think. And it was, I wouldn't say it was mega painful, but it was very uncomfortable and it didn't do anything. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know whether to have it or not. And I thought, he's going to be born in like quite soon. He's got to be. So I thought, oh, I don't know. I don't think I'll have it. But in the end, I was like, oh, well, actually, what is there to lose? It might, you know, might do something. So I was like, okay, I'll have it. So she did it, and she said I was about 4 centimetres dilated already. She could feel his head, and she basically said that she would be very shocked if I made it to the induction on the induction date on Saturday. And she was like, I've got a very good track record with this, and I would be so shocked if your baby's not born tonight. So I actually left there feeling really positive and really good. I do remember coming out and we were getting in the car to Ricky, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening now. But yeah, I felt quite like empowered that she'd said that. I don't know, because it still could have gone to Saturday, but she was just really, seemed really sure. So we were gonna go shopping after that, but we didn't. We decided to go home, and I was just like in his nursery. I'd packed my hospital bag and my bag, but I was just repacking a few bits, and there were a few things that I'd not thought of that I thought maybe I would need. So I was just kind of going through everything again. I did that for a while. Also that day our electrics went off. That was a whole massive kerfuffle because we didn't know what to do, and we thought we were going to have to come home to like a dark house with no electric. So Rick was trying to sort that out most of the day with my dad, and it was just, yeah, it was all a bit all over the place. But I felt okay. The stretch and sweep didn't seem to have done much. You can get like quite a lot of cramping after it, and I feel like I was in more pain when I had it with Elliot and it didn't do anything than with Finley. So I could feel I was getting contractions, but I'd been having Braxton Hicks for months. So I was kind of used to that feeling, but it was just a little bit more painful. I wouldn't even say it was as bad as like period pains. And they definitely weren't regular. I would kind of get one and then get another one 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, that kind of thing. So we kind of just tried to get on with the day, all the while knowing that like probably something was starting to happen. Ricky picked the boys up from school, and he also then took them back out to swimming, which looking back on it now, seems like a really risky thing for him to have done. Because let's just say if my waters had broken whilst I was at home on my own, the baby would have been born whilst I was at home on my own. No one would have got there in time. So yeah, looking back, it was probably a bit of a silly thing, but tell me if you feel like this, if you've had a baby, like you just don't feel like it's going to happen, even when looking back, you can see that you were in labour, like the early stages of labour. You kind of tell yourself that you're not. I don't know if it's like a protective thing because you're excited but you don't want to jinx it, I don't know. But anyway, so we carried on a normal day, and the boys came home from swimming and we had dinner, we put them to bed, and then throughout the evening I could feel the contractions were getting a little bit stronger, but again, nothing bad. I could still walk and talk through them. They weren't regular again, and I was just watching TV. I was standing up, I was trying to like move around as much as possible, and then by probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock, I could feel them that they were getting a little bit more regular. And I had been told that because my first 2 babies' births were quick, this one would be even quicker. They didn't even say maybe, they were like, this one is going to be quicker. So I was told I could ring the birthing unit, the birthing suite, where I was hoping to have the baby. As soon as I started getting like slightly regular contractions, and not to wait until they were like 1 or 2 minutes apart and I couldn't walk or talk or anything, which I'm very glad I listened to. So I rang them and explained all of this, and they said, okay, as it's your 3rd, you can come in. So in that next sort of half an hour or so, my mum and dad came over. I felt so lucky that my mum could come with us to the hospital, because obviously with COVID and everything, not everywhere's the same, and for a long time it's been a nightmare for pregnant women. So I felt very, very grateful and lucky that I could have Ricky and my mum there with me. My mum had to leave not long after he was born, but still it was amazing. So yeah, they came over. My dad stayed to obviously look after the boys, who had no idea any of this was going on. They were fast asleep at this point. And we left for the hospital. And I remember being in the car at like 11:20 and then 11:24, because this was, they were getting to be every 4 minutes by this point. So I was timing them like that, but I still wasn't like in that much pain. I mean, with my previous 2, I was in a lot of pain in the car, especially Archie, because as I later found out, he was about to be born when we arrived. But yeah, it was fine. Ricky did his usual trick of parking 30 miles away from the hospital. So even walking up there, I managed to do that without too much trouble. And then we got up to the birthing suite. I'm just going to rewind back a second, because one thing I forgot to say when I was on the phone to the midwife, who told me, like, invited us to go in, as they say, she told me that there were no birthing pools. They were all out of order, like out of service and not working. And I had, even though I'd kept quite an open mind to the fact that anything can happen, I might end up having to have an emergency cesarean or go to the delivery suite, or all sorts of scenarios, I'd kept an open mind. Because I was low risk, I had my heart set on a water birth like I had with Elliot, my last baby. And when she said it, my heart kind of dropped. I was like, I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna cry. And then something just came over me. I was a bit more like, do you know what? She's told me that none of them are working. There's nothing I can do. I actually remember thinking as she was saying it, maybe I'll just stay here and have the baby in the bath. But then I was like, no, let's just go to the hospital. It's going to be what it's going to be. You can't have a water birth. That option is gone. So just get on with it, kind of thing. I do definitely think something comes over you when you're in labour that makes you like stronger, like a warrior. I don't know. So we got there. We got to the birthing centre. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, birthing centre, when it's kind of like they try and make it the least medical environment that they can, but it still is. And we met a really lovely midwife who was going to be my midwife, called Holly. She was really nice, and she took us to a room which was very special because it was the same room that Elliot was born in. So the pool was there, it was just completely empty, and I was a little bit like, But yeah, we got into the room, did all of the usual things like the urine sample. Again, we love a urine sample when we're pregnant. And it does make me laugh actually, because I was asked to do one when I had Archie, and I was pushed up there, and I was screaming in pain with my first baby, and they were like, can you just do a urine sample? And I was like, a urine sample? I can't even move. And yeah, little did they realise I was 9 centimetres and just like pretty much ready to push him out, let alone be able to do a urine sample. But this time around I was fine. I was like, yeah, I can do that, that's not a problem. So did all of that, and then she checked the baby's heartbeat, and I'm pretty sure at this point she obviously examined me, which they do anyway, to see how many centimetres you are, but I'm not sure if she did another stretch and sweep. I think she did. And it was at this point that my waters broke. So she broke them like accidentally. Like obviously it didn't matter because I was there to have the baby, and that's probably a good thing to move things on for most people. But she didn't obviously intend to do that. She was like, oh, your waters are broken, there they go. And she said I was 4 centimetres still, which I was quite shocked at actually from that morning, but I hadn't been in that much pain, so that kind of made sense. But she was like, but now I've done that, they've kind of gone back to 3. I was like, we're going backwards? I thought, I might be here for a while. And she was like, okay, I've done that now. Because you've had fast births before, maybe don't go and walk around in the corridor just yet. Stay in the room, walk around, keep moving, and then when you feel ready, like, go for a walk and just let us know how you feel. And then she left the room. And then as she was leaving, I said, oh, that one's stronger. Suddenly I had what I felt like was a real contraction. They're all real, but you know, like a painful one. Like, she was like, yeah, just let me know if you need me. She went. And then I stood up because she'd told me to walk around the room. And I was about to start doing this because that contraction had kind of eased off. And another one, an even more painful one, started. And I was like, oh, shit. This is gonna happen quick. Because it had gone from 0 to 100 in minutes. So I remember standing up, I was holding on to Ricky, my mum was to the side of me. These were like the ones that you can't walk or talk through. I was probably not being very nice to them at the time because they try and make me laugh when I'm having a baby, and I just don't have that. I'm like, no, stop. And I just kind of try and zone out. And I get quite nervous as well, I think. So I'm like, why are you trying to make me laugh? This could, it sounds really negative to say, but I'm like, this could all go wrong or something bad could happen. That's always in the back of my head. So anyway, that was happening. Had a contraction, and then I think I remember saying like, I'm going to push, I need to push. And I was standing up at this point. My mum remembers this much better than me, but I feel like that maybe that would be a bit graphic for her to explain. But basically some stuff started coming out, and I think she really thought, and I thought, because I could feel it, that he was just going to come out whilst I was standing up, because of my births before. Like with Elliot, it did kind of happen like that, but I was in the water, so I was standing up and it was safer. Here I was just standing up. So they rang the buzzer thing, which they said we could press if we needed them, and Midwife started running. It wasn't like the alarm one, it was just the we need you one, and I'm hoping by this point they could hear me I was quite loud and vocal by this point. And then I think 3 or 4 midwives came running in, including my midwife Holly. They tried to lay me back down on these, it's not a bed in these birthing suites, it's more like these crash mat, gym mat type of things. And there's like swings in there and everything, but I've never used that. So they tried to lay me back down, but I was kind of like mid another contraction because they were coming really quickly. So it was very painful to try and lay down, but I did. And she examined me, she was like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I think you're pretty much ready to have the baby. So it just went like from 3 centimetres to 10. She was out of the room about 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. It's a bit of a blur to me, but it really wasn't long. So then these contractions were coming pretty much constantly. I thought they were about a minute apart, but maybe thinking about it, they were like 30 seconds apart. They were very close. And Ricky seems to think I had about 4 contractions whilst laying on these mats. And he was behind me. I'm not gonna lie, hurt like hell, but I knew it wouldn't take too long, and that's something that always gives me that little bit of strength to just get it done. I know that sounds ridiculous. I think I had about 4 contractions. Obviously he was moving down each time. I think by the 3rd one his head was out, and those ones I was screaming in pain, and she was saying you just need to try and breathe instead of like screaming, and I was like, I'm really trying. But by that point I don't even feel like I am pushing. My body won't let me do anything else. Like, it's a very weird experience and feeling if you haven't experienced it yourself. It's hard to explain, but I feel like he pushed himself out. That's what it felt like. And then by the 4th one, I think probably overall I had maybe 7 or 8 contractions since she broke my waters, but by that 4th one, he was born, and they put him on my chest, and again it was just, for the 3rd time in my life, like the most incredible moment. He had a little cry, And I remember saying this with Archie. It's really weird, but he looked how I imagined him to. I should probably say by this point, because I haven't mentioned this, because I know if you have been following me on Instagram and on here, we didn't announce the gender and the plan was to not know until birth. So you're probably expecting me to be like asking if it's a boy or a girl. Basically what happened was a few weeks before he was born, Archie came to us and asked us if he could know if he was having a baby brother or sister, and he seemed a little bit, not upset, but he really wanted to know. And we were kind of like, maybe it would be better just to find out now to prepare him, because I was happy knowing the whole time. Rick kind of wanted a surprise. I felt like I already knew, because if you believe in the nub theory, it was so obviously a boy from 12 weeks. So I kind of felt like I knew anyway, and we had it in an envelope if we ever did want to find out. So we weren't trying to make a big deal out of it. We were just trying to, I think, do something a little bit different than what we'd done the previous 2 times of finding out. It would have been really nice to have that surprise, but we actually thought, no, do you know what, let's get them a little bit prepared, tell them if they're having a brother or sister. So a couple of weeks before, we did find out. So it wasn't a surprise at the time. So yeah, that just kind of covers that, because you might just be like, oh, what, you didn't want to know if you had a boy or a girl? No, but I knew I was having a boy at that point, and they like put him on me, and he looked exactly how I'd always imagined him to look, because we'd been saying he for months. I was convinced it was a boy for months. And he had like this fair hair, which was so funny because both the boys had loads of hair, and it was, Archie's was like jet black, Elliot's was a little bit fairer but still very dark brown, and Finley's was like so blonde and he had no eyelashes, whereas his brothers had like huge ones, and no, like, he does have eyebrows and eyelashes, but they're just so fair. And I think he's going a bit darker now, but it was just like, I don't know. Finley, the name Finley means fair-haired warrior, and I just kind of had imagined him being blonde. Not because of the name, but I don't know, it just all, that's how I imagined him, to be a little blonde, quite small, petite looking baby, and that's exactly what he looked like. And with Archie, I imagined, because me and Ricky were born with jet black hair and he was my first baby, I was like, we're gonna have a baby with jet black hair, and I could kind of see him in my head. That's exactly how he came out looking. Elliot, I didn't really know as much, because I thought he might just look quite like his brother, and he did. So I don't know why I didn't see Elliot as much as the other 2, but yeah, Finley looked quite different to how they looked, and it's like I knew him all along. It's very strange. I can't explain it. I don't know, let me know in the comments if when you were giving your baby, like, you, all 3 of them, I'm like, I know you, you know? Even though with Elliot I didn't know exactly what to expect in terms of what he looked like, you know them, you already know them. Anyway, I'm getting all like sentimental and rambling. So he was born, like I said, he was £6.13, which was exactly the same as Elliot. Archie was 6'8", and then because he was born at 12:32 past midnight, he was 10 days overdue, just like Elliot. So it was all very quick, and in total they said from when my waters broke to him being born was 17 minutes, and they said I did the right thing going in when I did, and I was so glad that I did. I mean, I had no idea that breaking my waters would make the labour progress that quick, because I'm sorry to keep referring to the other babies as well. You might be like, why do you keep going back? But with Archie, my waters broke in the night, and then he wasn't born until the morning. So it doesn't always work like that, of course, but it just kind of, he was clearly ready and he just needed them to be broken, and he was like, right, I'm on my way now. So yeah, he was born, and that is the labour, that is the birth. I could go on now and talk about after that, and I feel like I should, because I love telling a positive birth story. I think when you're pregnant, you seek those out rather than the not negative, that's such the wrong word to say, no birth is negative, but I mean maybe one that was more difficult for the mum and the baby and the partner, etc. You want to hear the positive stories because it's quite a scary thing to think you have to do. I am also aware that making it sound like a walk in the park isn't always the best thing to do either, because then, you know, you might go into it thinking this is gonna be easy, and then if you struggle, feel bad about yourself because you did. So after, I seem to cope well in labour, but because I have health anxiety, and I've had a few questions about how I deal with health and anxiety whilst pregnant, giving birth, everything, it seems to be afterwards, like I freak out at the tiniest thing. Like I felt a bit weird after he was born, and they said my blood pressure was a little bit high, and I feel like I almost ruined those first precious hours with my newborn, because there's always something I'm panicking about. I'm like, am I bleeding too much? Am I suddenly gonna, you know, like when you see on dramatised programmes, everything's fine and then suddenly it's not, and then I just can't get my head around the fact that I'm gonna be okay, and then for weeks after as well. So that's kind of more where my struggle comes in, but maybe that's a subject for another day. Like, I think talking about all the things that you think and feel postpartum is actually just as important a part of pregnancy and birth as anything else. So if you'd like me to talk about that in more detail, then I definitely will. But yes, in terms of his birth, I felt really lucky that, again, it was a really positive experience. It was quick, and he's here and he's so perfect. I feel like I've probably missed so much out. So yeah, what I think I'll do is like a postpartum video, and I'll talk about just after the birth, and then how long we stayed in hospital for, the things that they check for when you're in hospital, when we went home, and then when he met the boys and the rest of the family, because I've got some really like lovely pictures, but I feel like if I keep going, I'm just going to talk about him for the past 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and not stop. So that was his birth story. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try and reply to as many as possible. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and subscribe for lots more videos. I'm going to be talking about pregnancy again, motherhood, mum life, lifestyle, and then my other loves like interiors and fashion and all of that stuff. So if that sounds like you, then I'd love you to come and join us over here and subscribe. And I will see you again very soon. Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye.